Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's time for the Brown Sports Bag. From the heart of the Barrens, a weekly local sports machine. Alongside John Butler, here's your host, James Brown.
Well, John, we are back again this week. You are in studio this week. We've decided to have you come in. We got a nice wooden frame with a plexiglass screen. It's sort of like talking to you through the jail window. Maybe we need a phone receiver to talk to each other in this setup right here, John. But it's good that we can get back in the studio and start talking sports.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like this. I feel safe. And we also got a Christmas tree up.
Yeah, we have a Christmas. We're ready to go here, John.
There you go.
Real quick, we're going to have a couple of more interviews with our basketball coaches. These have been edited to kind of deal with some of the discussion about the schedule because the season was supposed to have already started. But I felt like just the general conversation with the coaches was still relevant. So coming up in our second segment, we'll hear from Glasgow Scotties coach James Willett. And in the third segment, we'll hear from Glasgow Lady Scotties coach Craig Pippen in his first year at Glasgow. So that we'll hear those two. But before we get started with those things, we're going to talk about some high school football, especially the Glasgow Scotties. Despite the score only being 14-0, it was actually a pretty impressive win, I thought, by the Scotties at Taylor County on Friday night. This is a team they lost to 35-15 earlier in the season. And I thought a couple of things that people probably missed in the first meeting was this. That was the first game that freshman quarterback Easton Jesse started. Now, he had played against Logan County because John Carter Myers got hurt against Logan County. But it was the first game he started. Glasgow was reworking its offense from the kind of shotgun spread that they'd been running the last few years, going to a wing tee. We've talked about the change in the offense. And so I'm sure Taylor County saw it on film and did all their studying and that kind of stuff. But I don't think they had really faced Glasgow focused on running that offense. And I'll tell you, when I saw Glasgow play Franklin Simpson, I was impressed by what the Scotties were doing, and I felt a lot better about the matchup this time around between those teams, John.
Well, I think a couple of things is that comes out of that game. It's not necessarily the new wing tee offense, which has been tremendous for Glasgow. It's the fact that they shut out Taylor County.
Oh yeah,
I mean that's what surprised me more than anything. 14-0 against a Taylor County team that has a tremendous running back who's broken every school record at Taylor County. It's the Oliver kid, I believe.
Yeah, Wes Oliver. He was averaging 172 yards a game coming in.
To shut them down like that is tremendous. Now, part of that, how they shut them down is offensively, Glasgow kept the ball most of the night, too. Yeah. It's that wing tee offense that I have raved about for – really years up here, to be honest with you. I think it's a great high school offense.
Yeah.
And I'm just surprised more and more teams don't do that. And I just think you have to give the coaching staff a lot of credit for drastically changing their offensive system in the middle of the year, which is almost unheard of. And give the kids credit for adapting to that, because to me it's been the real key to their I guess kind of turn around in one sense. They just seem to me they've gotten more and more comfortable, and the freshman Jesse has done a good job managing that offense. And when he's got the opportunity to throw, the throws now are off play action, which is when basically you fake the run, and he's doing a really good job. The first touchdown of the game was off a play action pass, I believe.
Yeah. So,
and the other thing that was good, I take two things that defensively shutting them out was Taylor County's been the nemesis for Glasgow. Yeah. Not only did Taylor beat Glasgow earlier in the year, but they knocked them out of the playoffs, I believe, last year at Glasgow.
That's right.
And Taylor has – I'm from Greene County, and Greene County's right next to Taylor. And Taylor County's always had a little bit of a swag to them,
right.
Where they're very into their sports and very confident, to say the least. And so I'm pretty sure sitting here that Taylor County felt like they was probably going to knock Glasgow off.
Yeah, and I think I'm not going to – well, let me put it this way. I do believe that Taylor County came into the game and felt like they had Glasgow's number based on the playoff win last year and the win earlier this season. And I think they came into the game, thought they had their number. Here's a couple of things they did not reckon with, I do believe. One is, Glasgow with that wing team, they found kind of the perfect guy in Kieran Stockton to be that fullback.
He had over 100 yards.
Yeah, he had 23 carries, I think. No, he had 20 carries for 123 yards.
And there was a little bit of doubt going into the week if he could play as well, I believe. Isn't that right?
I'm not 100% certain about that. I don't know if he had some issues, but he looked fine on Friday night. And he's a big kid.
Yep.
He's got good athleticism.
Perfect spot for that fullback position, right, in the wing too.
Yes, and because he really started the year as a tight end.
Yes.
And so, I think in his first game of the season, he had against Allen County, he had several big catches as a tight end. And so he's transitioned to that fullback, and that works perfectly. And here's another thing. They've asked Hunter Scott, who everybody figured was going to be the premier back for Glasgow this year, replacing Nick Mitchell, to take on a different role. He's kind of he runs the wing, he plays some slot positions, but also he's had to take on a bigger defensive role whenever John Carter Myers got hurt earlier in the year.
And probably doesn't get as many opportunities to run as he did earlier in the year either.
Right, but he makes the most of the
exactly
5 or
right.
6 he gets in a game, and then you mix in. You mix in Jaden Wyrock and you mix in Jamarian Long, who those two guys were wide receivers, and now they're being asked to play these wing slots. And so you're right. A lot of people have taken on different roles. Here's another thing Taylor didn't count on, and this is one thing that worked out for Glasgow with the playoffs being moved back a week. John Carter Myers was able to return.
He's a really good football player, isn't
he? He is, and a lot of people focus on him playing quarterback, but he's a difference maker on the defensive side of the ball, and he was huge.
And coming back off a broken collarbone, I believe.
Yeah,
that's not easy in football when your best asset is tackling.
Right.
And he stuck his nose in there early in the game and made a big tackle.
Yeah, he had a big one in the backfield, and I asked him after the game. He said, that really got him rolling.
And he is he's a football player. I mean, I don't know how to say it. He was doing a good job at quarterback, but his he kind of made his mark. He started for Glasgow as a freshman in that defensive safety position.
Yeah.
So he's a really good player. I think is it Mason Bragg?
Yep.
He had a big game too on the defensive end, but. Taylor County was averaging close to 30 or more a game, and to go into Taylor and to completely shut them down is a heck of a compliment to the kids, to the coaching staff, to the game plan and everything. A great win.
It was indeed. A couple of other things from the game. We mentioned Myers. He had an interception with 2 minutes to go that basically sealed the win.
Mm-hmm.
And then earlier, a couple of other big plays. I think Corbin Wells had a sack. I think Jaden Wyrock had a sack on big plays where Taylor was threatening. Wells had a fumble recovery early in the game. Just generally speaking, the offense controlled the ball in the second half, and the defense didn't give up any big plays.
And
really.
that's one of the benefits of using the wing tee.
Yeah,
is ball control.
Yeah,
and. Now, the weakness is if you get behind, it's not quite as effective. But if you get ahead, man, it's tough for a team to come back on.
Yeah, and the treat they get for winning that district title and winning at Taylor County is they get to host Christian Academy Louisville.
I was a little surprised they get to host it. That surprised me, to be perfectly honest with you, because I would have thought that Christian Academy would have a higher RPI.
Well, and I think maybe they had 2 games that ended up getting canceled this year that probably – the RPI – I don't know why they're still using the RPI. I get the idea of doing this when they started doing it last year, but as we've already discussed on this show, there's so many issues with it, especially this year. It felt like maybe they should have just gone with some sort of straight bracket this year and just did the old way. I mean, Tackett kept saying, Julian Tackett, the KHSA commissioner, kept saying 2020 is going to be different than 2019 or 2021. Well, probably they should have stuck to that and not set the playoffs up using this RPI. I mean, I'm happy for Glasgow. They get to host a football game, but you're right. Based on Cal's schedule usually and their level of competition, you would expect their RPI to be higher than Glasgow's. It just doesn't work out that way. People may not know this, but they stopped calculating the RPI at the end of the regular season. So whatever it was on that last Friday night of the regular season is what it is for the playoffs.
Which doesn't make sense either.
Well, whatever. I mean, but they get to host them. The game's at 7:00 Friday. I'll be over there. Kyle Jones will be shooting some photos for us again.
Be limited tickets.
Yep, limited tickets. I mean, it's pretty much limited to family. And essential workers. Thankfully, they allow me to be considered a essential worker to come cover the games.
There you go.
And the Scotty channel will be doing it live on their YouTube channel. That's the student-run TV channel network that Glasgow has now. So if you go to the story that I have on 104thescore.com, you can find the link to their YouTube channel. So if you can watch it on YouTube as well. We'll be doing on the 104 The Score Twitter videos and updates from the game, that kind of stuff. So that's something to keep in mind as well. All that Friday night. Like I said, congratulations to Glasgow. It was an impressive win by them. I thought they had a real good chance after I saw them play Franklin Simpson, and they pulled it off, John.
They did. Congratulations. They are district champions, and they've got a tall order against Christian Academy. They will be an underdog, but they got them at home, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, anything can happen on a Friday night, John.
Yes.
Meanwhile, in college football, we had another weekend where this year has just not been good to our college football teams. WKU didn't get to play. They're scheduled to play tomorrow at 9:30 at Charlotte. That game has now been canceled. Their season may be over. They're 4-6, I think it is. There's maybe an opportunity to reschedule that game. I don't know if it'll happen. So that may be it for the WKU Hilltoppers this season. We shall see. Meanwhile, Louisville lost to Boston College, and Kentucky continued to struggle offensively in their loss to Florida. Let's start off with the Louisville game, John. What were your general impressions there?
Not bad. They probably should have won the ball game in a lot of ways. That it was turnovers that killed them.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Louisville is second in the country in terms of turnovers.
Yeah.
And offensively, they Cunningham, their quarterback, was fantastic. But they fumbled it twice, and both fumbles led to touchdowns and one interception, and that's kind of the difference in the game. They did not play bad. Kentucky, on the other hand, man, they're flat bad offensively.
Yeah.
And they're unbelievably hard to watch. And they have got to figure out what they want to do in the future offensively in terms of the quarterback, because they had a top-ranked recruit who's a receiver who decommitted, and if they don't turn that around, because now they're going on a couple years.
Yeah,
I mean, last year wasn't really their fault, but it was a disaster. I mean, they ended up making it the best of a bad situation last year with Lynn
They
Bowden.
made lemonade out of
That's
lemons.
correct, but it wasn't fun to watch.
No.
And this year, I mean, it's the same. It's a lot worse with quarterbacks, and
Right.
and they've got. I think they're going to have to figure out some major changes offensively, or their program is going to start to turn a little bit. And they were going up. And they were going, they were improving and really improving, and now I think there's a stigma on Kentucky right now, offensively, that they're going to have to change.
Yeah, and, if you are a program playing in a non-Power 5 conference, what they are doing you might be able to get away with. But if you're in the SEC, you can't, because every Saturday in the SEC, you're probably going to play a team that can put up some points on you just generally because of the talent in the SEC. And I don't know, it's not like they're not recruiting quarterbacks. It's just that they're not working out the ones they're recruiting, and I don't know how a program fixes that situation.
Well, it's a catch-22.
Right.
If you're bad offensively, it's hard to recruit good offensive players. Now you may think, well, I'm a good quarterback. There's a place to play. Well, you got to prove to me that there's a system.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any question that Coach Stoops wants to run the ball.
Yeah.
And
which makes sense.
It makes sense in that sense, but it also puts pressure on the offensive coordinator to kind of conform to what he wants. And they need, in today's time, if you want to play big-time college football, now even in the SEC, you got to have somebody who can expand the defense offensively, and you got to have a quarterback. You still need to run it, but you got to have some receivers and a quarterback, and probably a system that's going to give you a chance to win. LSU tried for years and years and years
Yeah.
to play without a quarterback.
Right.
And then when they finally found one and they finally had an offensive system, you saw what happened to them.
Well, and I was going to say, to some degree, in college football, if you have talented receivers and you have talented skill players, you can have a quarterback who's not going to be a next-level quarterback. But you have to have a system that takes advantage also of those talented skill players.
Yep.
And that's the thing about Kentucky is maybe they do have the quarterback. They just maybe don't have the system to take advantage of the quarterbacks.
I'm not for sure they got the quarterback.
I'm just trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, John.
I'm not for sure if they got it.
Yeah, me neither, honestly. But yeah, it's a difficult situation. I don't know how they fix it. Louisville is kind of the flip of that.
Louisville's closer. Louisville is kind of close, to be honest with you. Defensively was their issue early in the year, and they've gotten better. Mm-hmm. It's just been kind of mistakes and so forth. But I do think they have the quarterbacks,
right,
and the system at Louisville. I don't know if Kentucky has the quarterbacks or system.
Yeah, and again, Louisville's kind of in, the ACC is probably not considered as good as the SEC.
It's true.
The top of it is good.
Yeah, obviously.
But as we've discussed before, the bottom of the ACC is kind of rough compared to, the bottom of the SEC with everybody except for Vanderbilt. Maybe. I don't know. Those two Mississippi teams are pretty bad right now, too. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about all that.
Well, the Mississippi can score.
True, they can do that. Anyway, so maybe Louisville can get away with some things that Kentucky can't in terms of recruiting and that kind of stuff.
Probably true. I think that's accurate.
Yeah. All right, this is Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back with James Willett with the Glasgow Scotties.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
We are back on the Brown Sports Bag with Glasgow Scotties basketball coach James Willett. Coach Willett, thank you for joining us again this year to talk about your basketball team.
No problem. Thanks for inviting me over. Glad to be here.
Yep. Let's talk a little bit about last season as we get ready to talk about this season.
Okay.
Because you had a truckload of seniors last year.
Mm-hmm.
Things did not necessarily go the way that the potential for the season suggested it could go, and it seemed like injuries really had a large impact on the season as a whole for you guys last year.
Yeah, I guess that'd be one way to look at it. I just, that's going to be one thing that I'm going to kick myself on a lot. It just, when you reflect back, we should have done more than we did, and I'm the head coach. I take a lot of responsibility, a lot of blame for that. We had a few injuries, and I think we had a few guys that were just leaking oil down the stretch too, so to speak. Just some nagging things that were lingering. And of course, Tucker had the catastrophic injury that he did everything he could to play through, and seeing him work the way he worked, and to see him in practice actually, produce at 100%. What he could give 100% level, you were just kind of hoping that, maybe a shot, he would get an open look and just be a set shooter for us, knock down, help us space the floor for Jaden to work with. But, it didn't translate over to games sometimes. And, by the end of the season, I think some of our guys were just, worn down a little bit physically. And we had a tough schedule all season. We really tried to go out and challenge ourselves, and we did that early in the season and then around Christmas. And when we came back, maybe from Louisville or something, we were just really worn down. We played 4 games in 4 days. And I don't know if that, had some, had something to do with it, but we just never really peaked after that little moment.
Just as an observation from my point in watching you guys play quite a bit last year, one of the things I thought kind of happened was you had so many seniors that some people started pressing, trying to do too much because they felt the pressure of their senior season maybe? I
believe there was a little bit of that. I think they did try to press. I tried to take the blame for them all year, and I wanted to take the arrows for them because it was a good group of kids together, been playing for, since Little League days, and they needed to go out and enjoy that senior season. And I do feel like they were expecting, maybe to go undefeated or to do this and that. They put a lot of you want teams to place that on themselves, but maybe they did press a little bit too hard in hindsight. I wanted them to take ownership of the team, but really that probably needed to be reeled in a little bit. We had a couple of practices where we talked about that and discussed that, but at the end of the day, the lack of the success in the postseason doesn't change the character of our program, and it doesn't change the character of those kids.
Right.
And that's the one thing I reiterated to them. And it was a rough locker room to be in at the district tournament last year. But at the same time, they had accomplished a lot for that Glasgow Scotty program. They really did. They have a 2A championship and an All-A. Well, some of them were just vaguely a part of that All-A championship from years back. But a 2A championship, back-to-back district championships, back-to-back 20-win seasons. A break here or there in 2 regional tournament games, and we could have sent a Final Four, state semifinalist home in the first round of the regional. If we got a couple breaks, that was 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
So, they've had success, and you would expect that senior year just automatically to happen. And that's not the way basketball works. That's not the way it works, especially in this tough district and in this tough region. But they have good memories that they can hang on to as well.
And I only bring all that up because I'm curious about this. You have a truckload of juniors this year, really.
Right.
And what lessons do you think those guys who are coming up, because some of them ended up getting to play because of the injuries to Tucker and to Jaden during the course of the year. So some of those younger guys like Serwinski and Poland and those guys, and I'm sure there are others I'm just not thinking of off the top of my head. Right. They got a chance to play. What lessons do you think they took from that group of seniors?
Yeah, and Sam Bowling was
Sam Bowling.
He started some games for us last year as a sophomore, and he got injured in the Bowling Green event that we went to. He got undercut on a breakaway dunk attempt and hurt his tailbone and had some illness that he battled pre-COVID, of course. But there's just a lot of that going around the team, aches and pains and nicks and bumps, bruises, many small fractures, whatever else that could happen has happened. It seems like we are the walking epitome of my fantasy football teams personified. It seems like. I know we've talked about this in here before. Yeah, right. But no, I think the guys realize to go out and have fun. I hope that's the number one thing that they've taken away. This is a really fun group. They're not going to get the preseason praise and the ink and the all of the media attention that this group that we just graduated had, and because they haven't proven anything on their own yet, and we can talk about how the roles are going to have to be redefined here for this group. But I ended up coaching 2 JV games last year with these guys. The very first JV game they played, and Sam was actually on the floor that game. And so what you really had is basically the team we'll have this year playing in that game, and that was one of my favorite games that I coached all year last year. No offense to anything, but it might have been that pressure situation. There was no pressure. Those guys were out there flying around, playing fast. Yeah. Now defensively they've made me go crazy, but offensively they were a really fun group, and they were flying around the floor, getting up and down, and making threes, and driving to the basket, kicking, and sharing the basketball. It was fun, and then I coached them again in another game toward the end of the year, and it was we had a few guys not there with us off that first game, but still the bulk of that team that we'll have this year was on the floor of that game, and that was a fun game to coach as well.
Yeah. Now we mentioned Sawinski, Bowling, and Jackson Poland. Who are some of those others in that class, as you mentioned, the changing of the roles and that kind of thing, that you're also expecting, or maybe even younger guys that you are expecting to step in and fill roles this year?
Sure. Let me first mention our senior, Ethan Harlow. Yeah. He's our lone senior right now that we know of. I don't know that anybody off the football team will try out. They're welcome to, but we know that Ethan's been in our program since he's been a freshman, and he played middle school basketball as well. And he's got a little bit of length, and he's got the ability to stretch the floor. He can shoot the ball outside really well, and he's got more confidence. It's amazing his sophomore year, and then of course last year as well, when we start getting ready for postseason play, like the second week of February, he turns into this unbelievable threat on the floor, just flying all over the place. And so I've just whispered in his ear during this individual meeting to start the season. I'm like, be second week of February, Ethan.
Right.
And if he can do that, he can do some things because he really, on the scout team and drove me crazy, drove me mad, fussing at the first group a bunch of the things that he was doing on the floor. But that's a testament to some of the things that, if he has the confidence, that we hope he can do. A couple other juniors that we have, Brennan Short, he's a guard. He's really focused on transitioning his body physically. He's gained some weight, gained a lot of muscle. He's a guard for us that can shoot the ball, stretch the floor. This team will be able, I think, to shoot the ball from outside a lot better than last year's group could do. We were just missing that shooter on last year's team, and this group they have a little bit more confidence, and they definitely aren't shy from letting it fly from deep. And
right.
So Brennan's one of those guys that can effectively shoot it from deep, and getting him. He's stronger now. We got to get him a little bit more confidence attacking the basket. We have a sophomore by the name of, Coach Pippen's son, Craig Pippen, is a sophomore, that 6'4", 6'5" kid that has a lot of good raw skills, great feet, great IQ and feel for the game. He's a sophomore that has to learn how to use his body on the varsity floor a little bit more, and get used to that kind of competition. But it's open. It's open season for anybody.
Right.
And we expect a lot from the guys that you mentioned. Jackson is replacing Nick Sorrell at point guard. He's on the floor a lot last year, but he's taken over a kid that was starting point guard since his freshman year.
Right.
And Ashton Sawinski gives us a physical toughness. He plays and pretends that he's 6'3" and 6'4". He's not quite that tall, but he gives us that presence inside of somebody that
he's got the body, right?
Yeah, he doesn't mind to mix it up at all.
Yeah.
And then I'm expecting hopefully John Carter Myers will come back from that collarbone injury he suffered in basketball. That gives us some more toughness. So we've got pieces to be fun to watch. We just have to get used to competing against these teams that are established around us.
Yeah, real quick, let's talk about your district and talking about established, because Allen County brings back everybody that they needed to bring back. Barron lost some key players, but of course they still have Aiden Eichen, and they still have Tay Pointer and Gavin Withrow, a lot of skill players, coming back for them. In Monroe, I kind of characterize this way. It feels like you guys in Monroe, a lot of people will look at and say, this is a rebuilding year for you, just because of what was lost or the youth of the team versus what Allen and Barron have coming back. But when you look at the district, how do you see it?
Well, I mean, on paper, exactly the way anybody else would see it. Yeah. I think Barron County, well, I don't want to slight Mason Shirley, but, I think Barron County might have the best talented player. He's the fourth region mini Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, just kind of has a similar game to him, it looks like. And if Aiden can continue to step outside away from the basket and stretch the floor, we know he attacked us off the bounce right there on that little at that right elbow a lot last year. And if he extends that range to be able to pull up and shoot from there, or even extend it to the 3-point line, he's going to be crazy to have to defend. And heck, Mason beat us in 2 games by himself last year. Really, just carried Mason Shirley over at ACS. He just carried that team to a lot of wins, and he's got pieces around him that he trusts. It's just those 2 teams right there are established. They have experience. They should be getting a lot of preseason hype, and I believe they are. I've put those 2, right up there in the top 4 of returning teams in this region.
What do you think your team will need to do in order to compete with those guys, though?
Well, I tell them in practice that if we just show up and just go through the motions, anybody can beat us in this region. Anybody in the state can beat us, whether they're top 5 or bottom 5. But when we play well and we make shots and share the basketball with each other, it's going to take somebody's best effort to beat us, and that's what we want to be. We want the other team to have to take their best shot to beat us. And if we play well and keep our heads about us and execute our style and our game plan, I believe we can make that happen.
Play Allen County district until after the first of the year, January 8th.
Yeah, we've had a heck of a time trying to reschedule this Allen County series and stuff. When I was at Allen County, we were playing 10 days apart. Yeah. And then even when I came over to Glasgow, it was the same thing. And Coach Bonds and myself and some other coaches in the past have been like, man, we got spread that out a little bit, and we're trying to do that, and it's falling on some weird times. And ACS before, Coach Bonds has had like a lot of turnover with their head coaches, so some things that we're trying to get it back to where it suits both of us, and it's kind of an odd way to do it right now, but I think we're making progress on scheduling that series where both schools would agree to play on those days.
When you look down your schedule, well, and I guess you guys will play in the All-A this year as well.
Yeah.
Got back into that last year.
Right.
So when you look down your schedule here, do you see some games where you're like, all right, this is where I'm going to learn more about my team, or do you see some periods of time where you feel like this is where we're going to learn more about us, and we're going to maybe learn what it is to try to step up and, as you mentioned earlier, keep that tradition going that this group of seniors that just graduated set up?
Yeah, I mean, I can give you coach speak. Every game's going to matter. Every week's going to matter. Useless sound montage there. But, the first week will be a big week for us to see what we have. We need to see how we're going to handle a little adversity when things aren't going our way, who's going to step up and keep us calm. That first week is important for us. We just want to get games played.
Yeah, I hear you. I've been asking this question of all the coaches. In this particular season, as you guys get ready for the season, do you have a message that you're giving to your players about the challenges of this particular season?
Just to go out and enjoy it, because, before the coronavirus hit, we had teams that had just won their region on cloud 9.
Right.
And then it's yanked from them, no state tournament.
Right.
We had a team that's everybody just considered we're supposed to do this or that in the region, and we're supposed to go to Rupp Arena, and we lose in the first round of the district tournament. So regardless of what's happening, you never know when this opportunity, when all these things are going to be gone, either through play or through things that you can control or things that you can't control. So just go out and enjoy every practice. Go out and enjoy all the time that you get to hang out with your friends. I know that I have it's been a reflective time for me. You need to enjoy life and enjoy the extracurricular activities that you're presented with and opportunities that you have.
Mm-hmm. Well, Coach Willett, I want to thank you for joining us to talk about your team, the Glasgow Scotties, and good luck to you guys this season.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
It's Brown Sports Bag, brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
We are back. Glasgow Lady Scotties coach Craig Pippen. Some folks may go, Glasgow Lady Scotties coach who? Craig Pippen has been around for a little while in the 4th region, coach at Russell County for a number of years, won the region while at Russell County, went to state tournament, and was an assistant to Stinson last year, Justin Stinson, and took over the program this year when Coach Stinson decided to step away in the spring. Coach Pippen, well, first of all, what has it been like being at Glasgow at this particular point for you?
Oh, I tell you, it's been a blessing. God opens doors and closes doors, and He opened this door for our family, and everyone's been so supportive. Keith Hale's been great. He's helped our family tremendously. And our administration, Dr. Amy Allen and Craig Cassidy, our athletic director, and teachers and community, it's been overwhelming how many people have been supportive for our family, and we're just super excited about being here.
Right. Now, since you got to be an assistant last year, then you are pretty familiar with the program, the shape that it was in. It's done well under Stinson over his years being there, won the region a couple of times. But he did kind of leave you a little bit because he did have 3 quality players that were graduating last year, and now you did have Ainsley Adwell coming back, who's going to be one of the top players in the region expected. But what are some of the things that you've had to, I guess, adjust to the fact that you're not going to have the same team that was leaving last year?
Right. Yeah. We unfortunately 2 of our players that were returning decided not to play. Mm-hmm. Dynasty and Nina. Mm-hmm. But other than that, everybody's back. I'm super excited about this group. We're awfully young. We only have 3 players that have varsity experience.
I noticed you had a truckload of sophomores on your roster.
Right. We had a lot of freshmen last year. They're sophomores, and they're just, they're learning a varsity system. Mm-hmm. And so we're being patient. We're pushing them hard. This group is super coachable. That's what is most important to me. When it comes to coaching kids, I've done this for 27, 30 years, and at my age, I'm more into coachability. And our kids are working hard. They're super excited. We're having to every day. You wake up wondering what this COVID's going to do and what types of adjustments we're going to have to make. But I'll tell you what, it's just been amazing how hard our kids have worked these past 3-4 weeks, and our coaches are doing a great job.
With Ansley being your only returning starter and your only senior for that matter, what kind of pressure do you put on her to be a leader, or are you putting any pressure on her to be a leader?
Not really pressuring her to be a leader. I challenged her, and she's really stepped up in practice. She's taking a lot of the young kids under her wing and being very patient with them. She signed for Bellarmine. I told her, I said, look, you got your college road, your path set. So let's, you need to be a floor general on the floor and take this team that's awfully young and help us grow them. And she has embraced that. I'm so excited for her. She's my daughter's best friend. She's over at the house all the time, and we've gotten to know each other real well, but she's just going to be a really, really great player this year. I wouldn't trade her for anybody.
Right. Now, so after Ansley, with the host of players, younger players that you have, who are some of those that you are looking to step in and fill the roles this year?
Ashton Botts, I've got her playing the point guard right now, and I saw a lot of potential out of her last year as an assistant coach, but she has really she's really come a long way, and she's making really good strides in practice. Another one's Mia Cassidy, Coach, Craig Cassidy's daughter. She's got a motor that's just unreal. She's go, go, go. In fact, I kind of have to tell her, basketball is about a game of green, yellow, red light. You got to know when to slow down, when to go, and when to stop. And she's learning that. But outside of that, Janae Bradley's back. She played some varsity minutes last year. She seems like she's real excited about being back. Cadence Bird, she's another girl that's going to see a lot of floor time, another sophomore. So you got Janae, you got Cadence, you got Ashton. Those are 3 sophomores right there. Chloe Hale, Chloe's had to step up. She's a freshman or sophomore this year, and or freshman this year, and she's had to really step up, and she's having to play multiple positions. And then you got Mariana Bradley, Micaiah Fogel. They're 2 juniors, and they're going to help us a lot, especially defensively. Davany Prophet's another sophomore that's going to play. I mean, you got about 9-10 players here that didn't see the floor last year, and all of a sudden now, bam, they're in it because we lost 4 starters. So. But once again, we're looking forward. They're looking forward to the challenge, and we're looking forward to coaching them.
When you look at that early part of the schedule, what are some things you're looking at in terms of learning about your team?
Well, I inherited the schedule Justin put together, so I didn't schedule any of the games.
That goes wrong, you can call him
I can always call him up and say, man, why, why'd you do this to me? Right. Now, Justin and I go way back. He actually was my assistant coach when I coached boys.
Okay.
I coached boys for 10 years at Model, Danville, and Justin helped me when I was at Model. And so it's just kind of neat how God has brought us back together. Justin played a major role into us moving over here.
Right.
We're very close. We talk every day. I think the world of him, and he's very supportive of what I want to do. But yeah, it's just been a good situation.
You guys don't have any scrimmages this year, right?
Right. Well, yeah, we're not doing. You can't do any scrimmages. It's about us. These girls are learning an entire different system. Now, with that said, I've kept some plays and some defenses and offensive sets that Justin ran, and then I've also blended in what I've always run. But they're learning a complete system right now, and we're just, it's about us. a lot of coaches spend a lot of time scouting, okay? And I do scout, but I'm more into, okay, it's about us. What are we going to bring tonight? What type of energy are we? How are we going to execute our system? So we're gonna kind of go a little bit faster, I think, this year. We're going to play more up and down basketball. We're going to get the ball out and run secondary and primary breaks, and we're going to put more motion offenses in. It keeps we want to work the defenses.
Right. I was going to ask, going back to Ainsley's role on the team, I mean, she's kind of been the point guard, predominantly speaking, her time coming up. But with her experience coming back, I imagine you are looking at as many different ways as you possibly can to get her, especially in scoring position. Right. Is that correct?
Well, she's playing all 5 positions right now.
Yeah.
There's certain things we do where she'll be at the point. There's certain things we do where she'll be in the post. But yes, I mean, it's obvious that she's going to be our main scoring threat. But surprisingly enough, I think we're going to have 2 or 3 other girls that are going to surprise some people. Mm-hmm. They're playing with confidence right now, and that's the biggest thing. That when I took over, I want these girls to be confident in what they're doing. I'm preaching to them right now that when you make a mistake, you have amnesia. Mm-hmm. You move on. And that's what I'm trying to get them to do right now. But it's baby steps,
Right.
But yeah, Ainsley's one of those where she can take a game over, mm-hmm. And we got to get the ball in her hands, push it up the floor, and attack.
When you're looking down at the district here this year, how do you see the district kind of shaping up?
Well, from what I saw last year, I think Barron County is going to be real strong. I mean, I know they lost some key pieces of their puzzle, but Coach Piper does a great job.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to play up in they're going to get up in your grill and defensively, and she does a great job with man defense. Monroe County, they're going to be better. They've got most everybody back, and as for Allen County, Scottsville, they're going to be pretty solid. So, we've got our work cut out for us every night. And, I tell our girls that when we don't go 100%, when we don't have 100% energy, we can get beat by anybody.
Yeah.
And so we just got to bring it every night.
Back to your schedule real quick. When you look down on this schedule beyond the district games, are there any dates or games on this schedule you look at and you think to yourself, this is a good test for us, or this is a good week that we can learn something about ourselves?
Well, I'd love to beat Russell County because I'm that's where
especially after the end of last season.
Well, exactly, and being there 12 years and have the success we had in that program, I still stay in contact with those girls, and
mm-hmm.
they'll text me and joke with me, and but that's a game you really want to win. Yeah. And then probably Bowling Green, they're probably them and Warren. I tell you what, Warren Central's going to be much improved this year.
Yeah,
because they got I think got a kid moved in from Bowling Green.
Yes, Nia Shelton moved over there.
Yeah, and new coach and. I'm just tell with this COVID, it's going to be week to week. If counties are in the red, we can't play.
Mm-hmm.
If we're in the red, we can't host, and if we play Monroe County and they're in the red, they can't host, and that's kind of what football's having to deal with. So, I'm pretty certain that every week's going to be different. So we're just going to have to take every game one by one and go from there.
Coach, I've been asking everybody this question. What is the message to your players with the uncertainty of the season, and not of playing the season, but just the day-to-day practices, the schedules that you guys are having to deal with? What kind of message do you have to your players as you guys are preparing for this season?
Basically, we want to improve every day. Every day at practice, I tell them, today we have to be better than yesterday. And, that's our goal, is to improve every day, regardless of whether we play 1 game per week, 2 games per week, or no games per week. Especially with this COVID, there's going to be a lot of adjustments that the girls are going to have to make, a lot of adjustments that coaches are going to have to make. But we're just all about improvement right now. And, next year I've got everybody back but one. So, I told them the other day, so we're just not, we're not only planning for this year, we're planning for next year as well.
Right.
So I told them it's not a microwave process. It's a slow cooker, and we've got to look at it like that.
Coach Pippen, anything else you can think of you would like people to know about you or your program this year?
Well, we just, when you come see us this year, we're going to work hard. I told the girls when I took the job, I'm not going to tolerate the pitiful P's, and that's poor body language, poor attitude, and poor effort. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of old school in that department. They've bought into that. They've embraced it. I told them, I said, when people come to watch us play, they need to see a team that puts it all on the line, and that's what I expect from them.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Coach Pippen, and good luck to you guys this year.
Thanks for having me.
This is Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, again, I want to thank Coach James Willett and Coach Craig Pippen, who stopped by. It's actually been a couple of weeks now to discuss their season with us. Of course, the season has been delayed until January 4th at this point, so we shall see how things pan out. And real quick, but the college basketball season did get tipped off this past week on schedule, so to speak, and we got to see some good games. We'll start with the WKU men because they ended up playing in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, against, I think, what would be considered three quality teams, John.
I agree. I think WKU, in my opinion, is the best team in the state. And I think they're a legit top 25 team. I was very disappointed today that they did not make the top 25. I don't know what people are watching, to be honest with you.
I was too.
I mean, I'm shocked because, they beat a really good Northern Iowa team. I mean, really good.
Yeah.
I mean, they put 95 points up against. They beat a Northern Iowa team and gave up 23s. I've never heard of it. I mean, Northern Iowa was 20 of 39, and Western still won. Incredible. Didn't beat a Memphis team. And really outplayed West Virginia for most of the game. And West Virginia is probably top 10 in the country.
Yeah.
And
I thought in the West Virginia game, fatigue finally caught up with them a little bit.
That, and when Hollingsworth and Bassey went out with those minor injuries, they were up. When Hollingsworth went out, they were up 10. Mm-hmm. And they never got the momentum back in the second half. And I thought that was a big key. But I was really impressed. I mean, Bassey played like the hype. He looked like a NBA dominant player against Memphis.
Yeah.
And an amazing turnaround. Carson Williams was Carson Williams. I really like, he's so
right.
steady. He plays so well. Hollingsworth played great up there. And I really think the steadying influence of McKnight and Cooper at the point guard position has really, really helped them because it moves Hollingsworth off the ball.
Yeah.
And Luke Frampton is probably the one ingredient that they needed to come in. The transfer from Davidson, he can really shoot the ball, and they really needed that. I love Western's team.
Yeah, you mentioned Cooper, but I tell you, Davion McKnight was the player I was most impressed with as a freshman.
Well, he had 21 the first game.
Yeah, I mean, he for the most part did not look like a freshman playing. He looked like the kind of player they really needed on that team. We expected it from Cooper, I think.
Yeah, Cooper didn't play great up there, but I think he's really good. I think he'll kind of get into his routine and so forth. But Western, I think they're for real. And I'm shocked they're not in the top 25.
Yeah, meanwhile, Louisville started the season 3-0, but I would say that their schedule was not as tough as WKU's in their first three games.
Good win against Seton Hall.
That's true. Seton Hall has been good of late.
Louisville's hurt. I mean, they've got some terrible injuries right now, and but their transfer, Carleek Jones, is the point guard, is carried them. David Johnson and J.J. Traynor, freshman from Bardstown, hit two big free throws to beat to Seton Hall, but until they get Malik Williams back and some other kids back, they play Western tomorrow night.
Yep.
And
you can hear that game right here on 104.7.
I think Western is probably better than Louisville right now, except Hollingsworth, has got that thumb injury, and he will not be 100% if he plays.
Yeah, he's probable for the game. I think he said it's a game time decision.
Well, he'll play
right
then. He'll play.
Yeah, game time means yes.
But right now, Western's better than Louisville.
Yeah, and so I think that'll be interesting. That game's at 5 o'clock tomorrow, by the way. That'll be an interesting game. Meanwhile, the Kentucky Wildcats, Richmond may be a good team. They've had good teams.
They're a good team.
But you don't look at the schedule and say Kentucky's going to open 1-1 when they have Morehead State and Richmond.
Well, Kentucky, this is the John Calipari deal.
Yeah.
He's always, since he's been there, they're always going to be long. They're always going to have shot blockers. They're always going to be athletic. The teams that he has that are national title contenders will always have a shooter or two.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's Jamal Murray, whether it's now I've gone blank. Devin Booker,
Yeah.
Tyler Hero.
Yeah.
When they get those players, they are title contenders.
Right.
They did not make a three at all against Richmond, and they've got a couple of 3-point shooters, but he didn't play them, and that's, I think, if Calipari has a weakness, in my opinion,
Yeah.
is that if your only skill is to shoot, he won't play you much because he wants you to defend and do everything else, and there's a couple of kids on that team that needs to be on the floor, like Dante Allen, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And Davion Mintz needs to play, and he didn't play Allen at all.
Mm-hmm.
I like some of their players. I love Isaiah Jackson, and I like Terrence Clark. But, but they've got a major shooting problem they're going to have to overcome.
Yeah, he'll have to figure those things out. But I'm looking forward to that Louisville WKU game tomorrow, 5 o'clock, 104.7 The Score. It's been the Brown Sports Bag, brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be back next week.
Thanks for listening, and be sure and join James and John once again next Monday at 4 for the Brown Sports Bag, a local weekly sports machine presented by McDonald's of Glasgow.
Coming soon to your FM dial, this is Fox Sports Radio, WCDS Glasgow, AM 1230.